Hello, Lords and Lady. Today we are looking at the Russian Revolution, what actually happened. So what is going to go on? What are these events going to look like in Russia for it to switch? So our objectives today are going to be numerous. We're going to have several objectives. The Russian Revolution is complicated. It takes place in several different parts or phases. And so we've got to try to make that as clear as possible today from the outset. So the first thing we want to be able to do is explain the needs of the Russian people. What is it that they are lacking that they need, and that they're going to look to the government to provide. So we're going to have to then describe the provisional government and identify the crucial error that was made by the provisional government. Look at how Lenin and then his Bolshevik Communist Party is going to come in and take power. And what are the Bolsheviks actually going to do once they do take power? Are they going to live up to the promises that they've made to these Russian people? So these are the objectives that we're looking at. Again, there are 4 of them today. It's a lot of information. It is one of the more interesting events in history, to me personally, simply for the fact that Russian politics are never simple. And so those are the objectives that we are going to look at today. So what we have to look at and establish first is, what is it that these Russian people need? Why are they so frustrated and upset? Like, where is this all coming from that they're now no longer looking at the Tsar as their little father, but now a terrible tyrant who has to go and who's hurting them? And we did talk about the causes. We saw how he reacted with Bloody Sunday and the Revolution of 1905, and then, unfortunately for him, World War I and the involvement there. So what are the problems that the people are facing? Well, the first thing is that they want out of this war. They want World War I over. They want peace, okay? They want to get out of this war. They want their husbands returned home. They want to be with their families. They want no more death and destruction. The peasants want land. They need land to live on. Only the wealthy kulaks had land, and those people are not exactly giving it away. And they need food. The bare basic necessities of life here are among what the Russian people need. So when people are that desperate, think about the lengths to which they're willing to go. You might want to pause it if you're going to need more time. But these are the needs that the Russian people feel that the Tsar is not meeting. They need distribution of land, they need peace and out of this war, and they need bread. They need to be able to feed their families. Who could go home and look at their child starving and not be resentful or angry about that? I mean, there's no one on earth who could do that. So World War I is going to make all of these problems that much more urgent for these people. So what happens? Well, the first part of this revolution is called the March Revolution. If you're looking in an older textbook, sometimes they'll say February. It's because of the changing calendar that was done. For our intents and purposes, we're going to say the March Revolution. So what happens is, remember, people were angry with Tsarina Alexandra. They were upset and frustrated with her because of her closeness to Rasputin, who we know died a pretty interestingly crazy death. And so the Tsar realizes he has to get home. He comes back from the front, and by the time he does, it's really too late. And pause this if you think you'll need more time. But the workers and the peasants are at the palace gates protesting, and they are not going home. Unfortunately for him, when he orders the army to regain order, they absolutely refuse to fire, and they join with the protesters. This is really the end for him. He is forced at this point to abdicate his throne. So Tsar Nicholas II abdicates. He gives up his power over the Russian government and his claim to the Russian throne. In the aftermath of that, the provisional government is set up. Provisional means, providing for. It's supposed to be kind of a temporary setup, and the leader of that is Alexander Kerensky, who is interested in bringing democracy to Russia. However, he makes a crucial mistake. He continues Russian involvement in World War I, and it's something that is going to infuriate and anger the Russian people. You tell a hungry person, hold on, I'm going to let you vote. They're going to say, go away, I need some food, right? So, there's no way that they're just going to love this. This is one protest at the Winter Palace that you're seeing here. This is Alexander Kerensky. This is the man in charge of the provisional government who was a visionary in that he saw Russia being a democracy, and unfortunately for him, Russians didn't see that. And then this is the New York Times headline: the Romanov dynasty ends, the Tsar abdicates, and then his cousin abdicated, and that was the end of it. So the Tsar is done. Now, the provisional government's in power, but they're not meeting the needs of the people. In comes a man named Vladimir Lenin. And Vladimir Lenin was a known government revolutionary. He did not work with the Russian government. His original name was Ulanov. He was exiled in the 1890s, and he was actually exiled to Siberia. He escaped there and ended up going to Germany, where he stayed. Now, think about this, and pause it if you think you'll need more time. But why would Germany want to send this guy back to Russia? Hello, people, it's April 1917, and they're fighting a war on two fronts. They need Russia out of the war. So if he can go back and start some trouble, by all means, Germany sends him back on a sealed train to a hero's welcome. People are waiting for him. They're told a great hero is returning to Russia. And so when he comes back, he starts this radical group called the Bolsheviks. And the Bolsheviks are communists. Lenin believes in the ideas of Karl Marx. He is interested in redistributing the wealth of the Russian country and giving everybody an equal share. However, his ways of going about that are going to be questionable. So the idea when Lenin comes back is communism. And remember, we said Russia had a lot of radical socialists who wanted to see this kind of change. This is Lenin with his good friend Leon Trotsky, who we will get to in a moment. Leon Trotsky is going to be instrumental in militarizing the Bolsheviks, meaning building them up their own military force. And that's going to be crucial, because what we see happen when Lenin takes over in Russia is that not everybody is happy about it. So, and we'll get to that shortly. But so Lenin works closely with his good friend Leon Trotsky, and he promises, get this, peace, land, and bread to the Russian people. We'll think back to what we said initially. The Russian people, this is exactly what they need. You are playing to the common denominator. This is what they believe they need to survive and have a happy life. So as these two men are plotting together, Trotsky starts what's initially called the Red Guard, but will eventually become the Red Army, so that the communists actually have a fighting force. And Trotsky is a pretty good strategist. I mean, he's not someone who doesn't know what he's doing. He is going to be very effective, and we're going to see that shortly. But as these two men come back, they're getting more and more men to follow and join the Bolshevik Party. So the Bolsheviks are getting newer members. Among them will be Joseph Stalin, Molotov, Kalinin. All of these different huge names in communism in the world are going to come in this period. So when we are looking at Lenin's rise, initially he's great friends with Trotsky, and so it seems that Trotsky will be the heir apparent when something happens to Lenin, and we'll again talk about that soon. So, part 2. What is going on with all this? Well, provisional government again is carrying on World War I despite the ardent wishes of the people that they not do so. The people of Russia want this war to end at any cost. They don't care what you have to do, just end the war. Kerensky and the provisional government are saying, well, our biggest priority now is to bring democracy to Russia, but this is going to take us some time. You need to be patient. Hungry people are not patient people. Okay, I can tell you that by children who, I have 5th and 6th period waiting for their 7th or 8th grade lunch. So it's not going to be something that they're going to want to hear. So pause this if you think you'll need more time. But as we already said, Trotsky's going to start a military arm of the Bolshevik Party. And he has them well enough trained by November of 1917 that the Red Guard then storm the Winter Palace where the provisional government is meeting. And they literally just say, we're taking over. And Kerensky says, okay. And he ends up leaving Russia. He actually went and lived in New York City for the remainder of his life. So he died here in 1970. But it was that simple. No blood, no fighting at all in this part of the revolution. Lenin and the Bolsheviks simply took over. And Kerensky left. He fled Russia, which was probably the smartest thing he could have done. Now, here you have an artist rendering a piece of propaganda. that shows Lenin strong up there giving his speech to the people, and he's talking about peace, land, and bread. I'm going to give you exactly what you want and what you say you need. So does he live up to these promises that he had made to the people? Because remember, the average everyday guy does not know what communism is, doesn't understand exactly what this is going to mean for him and his family and his country. And so, what he's going to believe is what is happening in my life day to day. What did the Bolsheviks do for these people that get them some support? Well, first, they do. They begin distributing land to the peasants. They actually started killing off the kulaks, and you're going to see that Stalin will finish that job. They seized factories and said, workers, here you go. You control this place now. Do what you need. You're the one who knows. You're the ones who know what should be done here, so run it the way you see fit. He gets Russia out of the war, and again, pause it if you'll need more time. He gets Russia out of the war with the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. The unfortunate thing about that is that Russia does have to give up about a third of its territory, which is a tremendous amount of territory. The people who are against him, not everybody is happy about Lenin coming, okay? And they're not happy about communism, particularly the wealthy landowners and some of the soldiers who are still fighting in this war. They don't want to just give up and stop. So you're going to see a civil war in Russia. When they pull out of World War I, the other army is going to come back. They call themselves the White Army, the Tsar's army, and they are going to fight to try to get autocracy and the Tsar back in place in Russia. Not everybody is happy about the communists coming in. So where we're going to leave it at this point is that Russia is now in a civil war. So this transition to communism in Russia is not going to be a simple one. Okay, and that's where we'll pick it up tomorrow. Have a good evening.